Our present series is to be concerned with a study of pressure as we experience it in daily living and a search for remedy, with particular reference to the development of Zen philosophy in China and Japan. One of the interesting symbolisms of Zen is the construction and arrangement of the principal temples of this sect. The Zen sanctuary is usually a comparatively simple structure. Very little ornamentation, very few religious symbols. The entire temple is oriented in terms of its meditation gardens. These may be one or several. They will be hedged or wall enclosures, each a world to itself, each a retreat against confusion, and each so carefully and wonderfully contrived as to give the impression that it is merely nature reaffirming itself, restating its own influence in the life of the individual. The therapy of the Zen garden lies in its contribution to man's acceptance of life itself. The man shall change his point of view from a desperate struggle to a quiet realization or recognition of essential value. The Zen garden, therefore, retires from human involvement. Man experiences the garden only as an observer. He finds between himself and this sanctuary no interference, no involvement in the fashion of man-made things. The garden itself is so beautifully put together that there is no visible indication of human handiwork. It is simply nature recognized as something of extraordinary beauty. It is as though we looked out through a window to a magnificent scene created by a power infinitely greater than ourselves. This type of garden is very well known not only to the mystics of Asia, but to persons in every walk of life. You may find children making a pilgrimage to such gardens after school, not because they are told to, but because it represents an interlude which they have experienced as important to themselves. Young people, older persons, parents, grandparents, simply come and sit for a little while in this garden for purposes of reorientation in an effort to discover relationship with life, a relationship which is lost because of the illusion and confusion resulting from living forever in a man-made environment. Man-made things move in upon us until we almost come to believe that we live in a man-made universe. And if this peculiar delusion actually controls us, suddenly the meaning of life is destroyed. Life has to have sureties, values, facts, truths that are larger than the contrivances of men. If these larger facts are not available to us as vast forms and patterns of strength, we suddenly find ourselves extremely weak. We have no support, no strength, no reserve against pressure. So the Zen garden represents an area that is without pressure. something to be experienced and to be accepted without even creedal considerations. You do not have to believe anything in order to enjoy the garden. All you need to experience is the need for that garden. Today in our Western way of life, we are all experiencing need. Need for some type of internal quietude. Unfortunately, we do not all have Zen gardens available to us, nor would we probably choose to attend them even if they did exist. We have a different attitude on these matters. Yet regardless of our attitudes, we are the victims of the one common difficulty which is experienced today entirely over the surface of the earth, and that is pressure. So for the next few Wednesday evenings, we want to study pressure as we experience it in daily life. And we want to see whether there are some defenses that we can use in an effort to restore our own securities. Our first line of defense against pressure, of course, is our equivalent to the Zen garden. Where in our lives is there an area without pressure? What is there in our pattern of things which constitutes at least a temporary release from pressure? Now in the West we have always assumed that the change is the rest, that the individual engaged in certain activities finds peace or relaxation merely from shifting to another activity. Here in the West we are afraid of the horrible possibility of not doing anything. We feel that we cannot rest in a state of inertia. We say that we are too active-minded, that we are too positive, that we are too drama-conscious to permit ourselves to simply fold our hands and do nothing, even for a moment. So to us, release is merely a transference of a point of interest from one pattern of excitement to another. We are afraid of this letting down circumstance. We are afraid of simply resting. In fact, we have almost no experience in resting unless we are one of that small group of extremely lazy persons who have very little respect in our society. We are either lazy in the negative sense, or we are frightfully occupied. We do not recognize or understand this release from action, this release into recuperation. Actually, if we were all as busy as we think we should be for the 24 hours of the day, none of us would live very long. So we do have one escape from all of this, the one inaction that we know, and that is sleep. Sleep is a condition which, as far as the busy man is concerned, is nature's complete waste of time. Many persons resent sleep because it interferes with activity. They grudge themselves even rest. But when fatigue comes upon them, they have no choice. Sleep, therefore, represents, in a sense, nature's pattern of correction. It is the individual achieving a complete letdown by the loss of consciousness. Having ceased to exist as a person, he finds himself unconscious but free of tension. That is, of course, unless he is carrying tension into sleep. This may happen, but still, in the large, sleep is release.